Did you ever have to go through a period of like a drought?
Oh yeah, I go through droughts all the time, but that's why I do crypto. Nowadays, I prefer to only engineer on records that I'm working on. As far as DJing, again, like gave me the ability to see the world and do all these different things. That's phenomenal. So I don't have any intention on club DJing and sitting in the club for 3-4 hours a night. You know what I mean? Yeah, to your point, like whenever things kind of slow up, you know, you got to have some other stuff on the side to keep things rolling in.
I want to go back to the conversation of networking real quick. You talked about the importance of networking with people that don't wear chains.
Yeah, to even explain that, like, yeah, the guys that don't wear chains or whatever, because you have the rapper, you might have the producer, all these people that have all the fancy jewelry and all that stuff on, but you might have the most important person in the room that's just clean and just handling his business. Is like, really network with everybody in the camp that you're trying to, like, you got to like set a focus, like, okay, I want to work with this camp. Okay, there goes Young Nudie. I see Young Nudie. I see this guy. All of them got their PDE hoodies on and shirts and stuff. Okay, let me just talk with anybody in the camp, because you don't know who's who or who could really make a play for you. And he might tell you like, all right, well, I'm not the one to talk to, but you see that guy in the red shirt? That's who you need to talk to.
Calling back, got some keys.
And we back with another episode of the Producer Royalty Podcast, and we're here today with my bro, Kino Beats. What's up, bro?
What's going on, my brother? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you feeling?
I can't complain, man. Just another day, man.
Yeah, I know you had a lot of interviews before, so I'm not going to touch on the whole come up story as much. So I want to talk about, you know, a lot of the lessons that you learned along that journey. But first, I want to ask you, you've done so much. Like you've done more than I've seen like basically any producer has, like when it comes to traveling, DJ stuff, like working with artists, like what else? Fill in the blank.
Right.
Yeah.
Literally, that's it. I mean, I think I kind of pride myself on that aspect of it. So I appreciate you even noticing. But it's my roots of being Jamaican. So I feel like I just work like a Jamaican. You know what I mean? So I don't like to call myself a producer. I don't like to call myself a DJ. Like I'm in it to win it. You know what I mean? So yeah. So to fill in the blanks, I mean, it's literally that, like tour DJing, tour managing, facilitating deals. Like I like to be on the business side of things. I like to be on the creative side of things, producing, engineering. Keep that in there. I wonder if they're gonna be able to even hear that, but
for sure. So what I'm sure first of all, a lot of people don't even have a vision for their life to as much as you probably did, but also even if they did, like they don't have access to as many opportunities that came your way. So like, what did you do differently that invited all these opportunities to be into your life?
I think it just comes from just being a genuine person. You know what I mean? Being social, seeing things, seeing problems and trying to solve the problem without being asked. You know what I mean? For example, like the come up story when it comes to like tour DJing, like I started tour DJing from meeting Lex Luger. You know what I mean? Meeting Lex Luger in the city and seeing he has these slew of all these hit records and saying like, yo, bro, like it'd be crazy if you were to just go to the club and DJ these records. And he was like, yeah, that'd be fire, but you know, I'm a producer. I don't really care too much about, you know what I mean? He didn't really, he actually knew how to DJ himself, but that wasn't his real goal. And I was like, well, shoot, I'll just teach myself how to DJ and I'll DJ, just pop out, you know what I mean? And that kind of started that whole type of motion, you know?
Yeah, your story with Lex Luger was kind of interesting. So you said that, how did you wind up meeting Lex Luger and how did that relationship develop?
Well, for people that know my past and my history of just being raised in Virginia, like it got to a point in Norfolk, Virginia where I was recording, like I always just throw the number out there, but it's really impossible for me to actually put a number on it. But it got to a point where it's about at least like 2,000 to 3,000 people in the city. Like we had a recording studio with Jay Bray downtown Norfolk, Virginia. So it was a certain point where like I was the top of the food chain in Norfolk, Virginia. Like anything music related, they had to come through me. So when Lex left Atlanta and he came back to Virginia, naturally we ended up in the same room, you know. my people's from there like, yo, bro, Lex out here, bro. He's at this studio right now. Like, pull up, bro. Like, y'all got to link up. And we linked up and just was making a bunch of beats, and we started building a relationship, which turned into a brotherhood, and we just built from there, you know?
So what does it take to be the top, like to get to the top of the, because that's not like a small town. Like that is you getting to the top of the chain in like the 7 cities, you call it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So like, what does it take to get there? Like if you were in a smaller town, what do you think, what would be your suggestion to maybe, you know, get to the point that's such an interesting thing you say, to all the music had to come through you. So
So what it is it's a number of things. I mean, first it starts with you got to learn your talent. You got to actually be good at what you're doing. You know what I mean? And then once you're good, you got to you can't just box yourself into one circle. You have to expand and deal with a lot of different people. Outside of just dealing with a lot of people, you have to be able to maneuver in a professional manner, but fast. You know, that's something I always tell a lot of people. Like, quality is one thing, but speed is another thing. Whether that's recording and to be able to record and add edits and drops and stutter effects while the person's recording, be able to be fast with that. If you're into photography, if you could take a picture, edit it, and Bluetooth it to the phone, next thing you know, you're on with that. If you're recording somebody's video, can you record my video and have the video to me tomorrow, but it still be high quality? So I think like speed was one of the things. Like everybody like knew me in town, like, yo, like I go and record with Kino, I get 3 songs done in an hour, bro, and they sound good, you know, and it started being a domino effect like that, you know?
So what was your studio like at the like, did you open your own studio? Did you have another studio that you were working with? Like, how did you become like a hub?
Well, so the real story starts around like 13, 14 years old. I was having people come to my house and record after school before my mom got home. and then we actually had there was a mall in Norfolk named Military Circle Mall, and there was a recording studio in the mall. And I told the guy at like 15 years old, I walked up to the guy and told him like, yo, I know how to do this. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah, I know how to record. I'll be recording. Like I was a cocky little motherfucker. So I went up to him and told him, I was like, yeah, I know how to record. So he's like, all right, well, if you know how to record, then let me see. And he put me on the spot. He had me recording. And this is when that mall was jumping. Like, this is the day of the malls. You know what I mean? So it was a Saturday night. It's like 60, 70 people walking like around that booth area. And I was sitting there recording, nervous as hell. But I recorded the guy that was in the booth, and he came out, and the song came out fire. So I started to work there. And in the process, I ended up meeting what in turn turned into like my business partner, Jason Bray. He already had a recording studio downtown, and we had some animosity at the beginning of our relationship, but we started working, and he invited me over to his studio, and from there kind of the rest was history, you know. So it really was his space. It was his space that he owned, but then I was there so much and building such a big brand and name in the city to the point where we were able to kind of see like on an eye-to-eye level. And I never really like pushed to even go and separate and open my own space, because we started building a whole dynasty right there.
Word. Yeah. So you wound up building like a real hub. Like,
yeah,
everybody had to come through there.
Exactly.
Word. And what about getting into DJing? So if you had to suggest first, maybe tell a little bit of your story, how you got into DJing, but if you had suggestions for people getting into DJing as well too, what would you say? It's
the same thing. Like, again, to go back to the beginning, the guy that was running that studio, his name was Dave. He was an older cat from New York, and he was an MPC guy. And I came in with my FL Studio, so I would show him how I would sample and use FL Slicer and stuff like that. And he would be like, "How you changing the tempo of the song so fast? That's cheating." So I always kept that in mind when he used to tell me using FL was cheating. And I told him, I said, one day this is going to be industry standard. And today, I guess today is the one day. So then with DJing, obviously, like I said, I had that conversation with Lex and stuff. When I went to go teach myself, I'm like, man, I can't ever and do all that extra stuff on the vinyls. But I started to look, and I seen that they had these DJ controllers with pads. So I was talking to other DJs and they were like, bro, that's cheating, bro. That's not real DJing. And I was like, I heard that before with the FL Studio thing. So I taught myself using those pads and at the time, I didn't even touch the turntable. Like I just went pads like I was making a beat on the DJing thing. And I self-taught myself doing that, just ask questions to people that was in the area already. And then the biggest thing to get comfortable was I started taking gigs in my hometown. So I took gigs for about a year or two and started it was a time period where 4 nights a week I was booked at local clubs, And
how did you brand yourself? Like, how did that wind up working? Like, where did the opportunities come from? Were you actively looking for them?
Yeah, it kind of, like I said, it kind of was hand in hand because of the fact that I already had a name in the city. Everybody already knew me for music anyway. So once I said I was DJing, it kind of was like, oh, you DJ now? Come on, Kino. You know what I mean? Because people already looked at me as the guy that, makes the beats. And at the time, I think I caught a couple of placements and stuff. So I already had like the little local celebrity type of, effect to it. So it was just kind of like, all right, well, if you DJ, like, we don't care if you suck or not. Like, come on. And it just gave me that ability to go in. And then I had a good friend, he's still friends to this day, my boy Jet Life. He started party promoting. So it was like a shoe-in because every night that he would promote, he would book me, So anybody that's trying to get into DJing, just get clue with a promoter, If you got a good relationship with the promoter, then he's going to make sure that you're booked,
Are the skills adjacent in some sense? Like, is it like if you were a producer, would it be relatively easy to get into DJing?
So I hear a lot of people say that, right? A lot of people say that it goes hand in hand, but for me, I feel like my engineering skills help with DJing more. And the reason for that is like a lot of DJs that's like tried and true to the craft, they DJ on Serato vertically. But I like to have it horizontally because when I look at Serato, it reminds me of Pro Tools. So I'm just looking at waveforms. I'm like, okay, if it spikes big like this, then it's a drum coming in. So I'm able to just look, and for my engineering skills, I'm reading the waveforms. So I don't have to know the song. I don't have to hear the song, but I can see, okay, these waveforms are real small coming in, and then it gets big here. So that must be the drop, and I'm able to DJ without ever hearing a song. So I personally feel like transitioning from engineering skills to DJing skills is more hand in hand than the actual producing.
Really?
That's my personal opinion, though.
Yeah. It sounds like you gave, bro, you speak in different language to me. I'm sure most of the audience understood that. Do you enjoy all of the elements of the things that you do on the creative side, or did you wind up like engineering and DJing, or was it more so to get access to funding, of course, and other opportunities?
Right. So for me, engineering, I have fun. I have fun with creating. Period. I just like seeing, like, you see how we're in complete silence outside of us just talking. I like seeing this turn into sounds. You know what I mean? So I just love that aspect of it. But engineering, of course, it paid the bills. But it's a ceiling because it's only so many hours in a day. So I don't care if you're charging $1,000 an hour or whatever you're charging per the hour. Like however much time that you can record is the max amount of money that you can make. You know what I mean? As well as the same goes for DJing. Like, you're only going to get your fee. But when it comes to production now, production is something that can pay you forever, via royalties and things of that nature. So
I've never considered that before. I asked the question the other day. I want your perspective on it too. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But like, would you say that a lot of times engineers wind up making more money than the producers, though, because they are, I guess you kind of answered that already, but in your experience, like a solid engineer that gets a lot of gigs versus like a solid producer, also gets a good amount of placements, like who winds up making more money?
The producer. Nowadays, which I love the plight of it and I love to fight for it, period, is with engineers starting to get like percentages of records. That could kind of transition it a little bit, but man, when a producer, like, nothing can compare to a producer getting a hit song and getting those just endless residuals, and that song ends up in a movie, and then they get another check, and then like, maybe I could be wrong, but I haven't really too much heard of an engineer just getting a publishing deal. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, it's not too many times where the engineer wakes up and a company is calling saying, hey, we got $1 million for you because you made this beat. Mm-hmm. So that's why I feel like the producer would, in turn make more. But the engineering aspect is a bit more stability. And that's one thing that I always respected about the engineering craft, because you kind of have in your mind, like, once you have a good list of clients, you know, like, all right, I'm going to take this amount of hours, I should be expecting this. With production, it's like, I don't know when it's going to hit, you know what I mean?
For sure.
So that's kind of...
Yeah, did you ever have to go through a period of like a drought from, I guess, were you always, you know, engineering and DJing at the same time as being a producer, or did you ever have to go through a period of like, fuck, I'm just trying to make it off my...
Oh yeah, I go through droughts all the time. Like, and I'll be real enough to say that some people act like it's all sweet. It ain't all sweet. You know what I mean? But that's why I do crypto.
Word.
I told you I keep my hands in everything. Yeah. So I do crypto and stocks and all that stuff. So that kind of keep things afloat. But no, it's droughts all the time, because it's sometimes when placements aren't coming in as fast. Nowadays, I prefer to only engineer on records that I'm working on. You know what I mean? Like, if I only want to engineer on my beat, I don't want to sit in the studio for endless hours recording somebody else's songs and stuff. So I kind of cut that out of my income reel or whatever. And then as far as DJing, again, like, DJing gave me the ability to see the world and do all these different things. That's phenomenal. So I don't have any intention on club DJing and sitting in the club for 3-4 hours a night. You know what I mean? So I guess these were my personal decisions, but that's just kind of how it is. So between producing and DJing is like, yeah, to your point, like whenever things kind of slow up, you know, you got to have some other stuff on the side to keep things rolling in.
Word. Yeah, and I want to touch on you just talked about going overseas too, so I want to touch on that too. So what was that like going overseas? I heard some of your stories on other podcasts, and like, it seems like you were really able to tap into other markets and get yourself out there and working with people. So like, how did that wind up happening?
So again, back to the original portion of everything, like dealing with Lex, man, we started doing these gigs, and we got an offer to go do a European tour. So the first city I ever landed in, I was born overseas, being born in Jamaica, but the first city I landed in Europe was Paris. And from there, like, from landing in Europe, I'm like, this trip, I said, nah, I have to keep on doing this. You know what I mean? And yeah, that was really it. Like, going to Paris, and then going to Barcelona and Amsterdam and London and all these different places. The biggest thing was going over there and networking. Every place we go, like, be friendly, speak to everybody, go out. Like, after the night is over, we going out to the next spot just to hang out, because then you meet the club owner at this place. He's asking you who you are. Next thing you know, you're booked over there. And that's just kind of how I kept it, you know what I mean, expanding from there.
So is it easier or harder than you would have thought, or other people would think, to get tapped in with these people? Like, if you're trying to get into a studio with some of the bigger artists in like a country like that,
it's easier than you would think. So I'll give you I'll give you an interesting situation. Like, long live my brother OG Mako. So I was doing these tours with Lex, and actually, like, the first time that me and Mako met was in Belgium on a tour with Lex, and me and Mako started building our rapport from there. So we had got an offer to go to China, and I had already went to China with Lex before. So I'm telling Mako about China and stuff like that, and we're talking about the different artists and stuff over there. And this is around the time where the Higher Brothers, they had a song with Famous Dex called Made in China. And that was like one of the first like Chinese songs that transitioned over here or whatever. And we just was talking, like, it literally was like 2 nights before we went to China. We like, bro, when we go to China, man, we got to meet the Higher Brothers, bro. We got to work with them. Well, we fly to China, and the first night that we land, the Higher Brothers come out to the club that we just hanging out at, because they heard we were there, type thing. You know what I mean? And we just started building a network like that. So the thing is, especially China, but even in Europe, like, a lot of these countries, they don't have as many American acts coming to their town. So when the American act comes to the town, they know. You know what I mean? It's like, it just rings off, like, who's coming? All right. So all the top dogs in each of these cities, they're coming to be with the American act. You know what I mean? Rightfully so. So then we just build a relationship like that.
Yeah, you approached it from really, you were with some of the top dudes and you became one of the top dudes too. So if you were a newer producer, do you think it was still like, what would you do if you were a younger producer? You have a little bit of motion, your social media is not dead, but you wanted to get tapped in with artists over there.
Overseas?
Yeah, overseas. Obviously, it depends on the country.
Yeah, so are we saying from going over there, or are we saying staying here?
Going over there.
Okay. Well, I think going over there and staying here, I think it's the same answer. Same way you get placements and stuff here is dealing with other producers. You know what I mean? You deal with the producers that, you just got to do your research, do your homework, and see the producers that are working with these bigger guys, and you try to shoot your shot to try to develop the relationship with the producers. And once you develop that, like, they love to trade culture, you know what I mean? So once you're dealing with the different producers and stuff, they'll see like, oh, okay, they'll invite you to the studio or something like that. Hey, I'm coming to your city. I'm coming to Italy for the weekend, or I'm coming to wherever for the weekend. They'll say, okay, come to the studio. And then next thing you know, the big guy is right there. And it's like, oh, okay, done deal.
Gotcha. And how would you say getting paid is out there? Like, do they pay decently for beats overseas? Like, is publishing completely different from what you've seen?
The publishing thing is a little bit more difficult to deal with, but what I will say is the pay rate is they're gonna pay what you ask for. You know what I mean? Either they're gonna pay it or not, because what I noticed, the difference between American culture and a lot of other cultures, I feel like Europeans and Asians are very literal people. You know what I mean? So it's like, here, if I tell you something is going to cost this amount, it's like, you think you could give it to me for this, or you can. No, if you tell them it's that amount, then they're going to say, okay, I can pay, or no, I cannot pay. And then if you say, oh, if you can't pay that, you can pay this, they'll be confused like, wait, but I thought you charged this. You know what I mean? They're very literal. So, is it easy? Is it easier? I feel like yes. Dealing with the independent artists over there, like they'll pay your rate.
I love that answer, bro, because we work with a lot of our company specializes in getting people paid for beats that have been stolen. And like, we have this technology that scans, there's other technologies in there too, but we built our own that scans the internet for stolen loops to see, and we find placements like with random people in Europe or random countries, and you'll be really surprised like some of these, like how much a lot of these artists overseas will pay for sure. Like they steal a lot, but then when you ask for it and the song's taken down, they'll give you the money.
They give you the money,
yeah. We take the shit down, you know what I mean? So it's like they make a good amount still, you know, and they're the producers oftentimes, if they do give you a percentage, it's not going to be 3 points. Like, you know what I mean? Like it'll be so if we ask for a 15% backdated like amount, then they'll give something like that.
Right.
So,
exactly. And then the thing is too, Europe is a little easier, but with Asia, what you have to realize with that is a lot of countries in Asia, they have their own streaming services that they don't integrate with, our system at all. So it makes it harder when it comes to the publishing aspect of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they don't pay as much for like music being played on the radio, probably. Although they do play master recording owners on overseas, except for in the United States. But you also talked a lot about offering people, the best way to build relationships a lot of times is to throw them a bag, find ways that you can, offer them some money to work with you, right? So like, what are some other things, or if you were a newer producer and you wanted to lock in with a bigger producer first, like how would you kind of approach offering them some value?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, it's just bringing value. You know what I mean? Like, it still goes back to like what I've said before, and what I consistently say is offering them a bag, but a bag doesn't necessarily just have to be money. It just has to be value. Like, you have to find some value, because you have to think like all these producers, like, okay, every day there's a million people trying to send loops. There's a million people saying, hey, you're my favorite producer. Can I collab with you? So what are you going to do to stick out? Like, I don't care if it's a t-shirt, or if it's a hoodie, or if it's, some merch from something, or like just something different. Just find a silver lining just to differentiate yourself. You know what I mean? Like, it's really just like investing in your craft. You know what I mean? I don't know, somebody say, hey man, I need a pair of white Air Force Ones or something. Go buy the white Air Force Ones and pull up on them like, yo, bro, I know you don't know me, bro, but I follow you. I'm a fan of yours. I got these for you, bro. Like, I love collab and look, just whatever it takes to like build those relationships.
You mentioned like inviting them on trips in another interview too. Like if you're going somewhere,
exactly. Because
inviting them to events type shit. If you're hosting something, just invite people to events. That's a great way.
Yeah, exactly. Because you never know, especially like the industry is small, so you never know who knows who, and you may be telling somebody about something that they didn't know about, but they would be interested in, you know?
Yep. Giving knowledge is another thing that I like as well too. Like if you're the first person to explain, some random shit to them, like teaching them how to make some money. Hey, did you know about this royalty? I just learned about this shit the other day. It's crazy. Like I didn't know that I was supposed to be getting paid all this money. Did you? And if you're the first person to point out a bag to them, like you're going to build.
That's why I said at the end of the day, it always goes back to the bag. If you could produce that bag for them, they're gonna rock with you. Like you said, you go to them and say, "Hey, bro, the master royalties they da 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 da." They're like, "Wait, what?" It's like that's literally the way.
Yeah, you've done paid collabs with people before. You told a little story about how you wound up using more. Could you tell a story like how? You mentioned that you did a paid collab with somebody and they wound up, you only had to do one thing for them and then you wound up fucking with their stuff and then you did like 7
that goes back to they came to me with the bag and I genuinely rocked with them, you know what I mean? And that's literally it. Like I deal with genuine people. Like I prefer to deal with genuine people at least. So if I see you're genuine and you have talent and you come to me like the right way, like, look, bro, I want to do this. I have this amount. Can you work with that? It's like, all right, cool. I'll take it. And then it's like, all right, I know you paid me for 1, but let's do 6. You know what I mean? Like, let's lock in. Hey, bro, send me some more stuff. And it's like, okay, I want to send it, but I don't have no money. Like, bro, I don't need your money, bro. I told you send it to me. I rock with you now, Yeah. So that's kind of, how that goes.
How would you structure that message if you, like, what would you say specifically? If you were like, hey, I'll pay you $200 for a paid collab, or is like, I'll pay you $200 to send you a loop and you use it? Like, what would you say? Is that known? Like, will people even know what that means?
Yeah. I mean, I think at this point now, like, because I feel like the game just burnt it out completely, like with the whole paid collab thing. But essentially, I would think that it's as simple as that. Like, hey, I'm a fan of your work. I want to work with you. I only have a $200 budget. I don't want to disrespect your craft, but this is all I have to pay you. Would this be enough for me to collaborate on a beat with you? You know what I mean? And most of the time, like, people will be surprised because, again, it's just like we talked about before. Like, it's peaks and valleys in this. So you don't know what that person that you're looking up to as that super producer might be going through that week. Like their rich people problems might be a little bit different than our problems, but they might want to go and buy the new Cullinan that day, and they might have 499,000 and just need the extra. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know. So sometimes they get in that hustle bag and they want to collect all bags. So if you're willing to invest in yourself, then always just shoot the shot and just try to be tactical with how you do it, because you can. Like, if I was in that position, I would organize it. Like, I'd say I wanted to work with like a Zaytoven or something. I would say, okay, well, he's going to be at this event on this day, so I'm going to try to collaborate with him now and then make my way to the event and introduce myself. Like, hey, I'm the guy that just sent you the ding for this, and, I just wanted to meet you in person. I love how the beats came out and all of that, and you never know where that relationship could go.
That makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that example for sure.
Yeah.
You've also collaborated with a lot of artists as well, too, and you've done a lot of, like, tapes together, right? So
yeah.
What does that usually look like for you? How do those things usually come about, and what's the business like when you do that?
So I kind of like Debo these kind of situations. You know what I mean? Like I kind of start, like, once I do a song or two with an artist and I feel like that we build a certain amount of chemistry and it's something I want to do, like by the third song, we're working on a third song, I'm just going to step away from the computer. I'm be like, man, I ain't going to lie. We might as well just do a tape. I'm going to just throw the idea out there. And then when we work some more, I'm like, man, I was listening to the 5 songs we got and they sure sound good together on a tape. I'm going to just keep on just hammering the point. So that's kind of how it goes. It's kind of like I usually produce that idea, and as it's been going, you know, when I say that idea, usually the artist is like, yeah, that'd be dope, you know, and then we kind of go from there. It just kind of works out that way.
Yeah, for real? Yeah. So how do you usually have the business conversation? Like, do you even have that conversation? Is it just kind of like known that it'll be, is it 50-50 usually? I don't know if you can speak on it. But.
Yeah, I can. So yeah, usually again, especially like to the mindset that I've been in personally, like I'm not like chasing placements and stuff. I'm in like the real mindset of trying to work with people that I actually like get along with and have good relationships with right now. So since I have such a good relationships with these people, when it comes to the business, we don't have to overdo anything. Like we know off rip it's 50-50, you know. There has been some projects I've done where when it comes time to the payout, I realized it wasn't 50-50, and I have to make a couple of phone calls to their higher uppers, and then that's when I get them on the phone like, yo, what happened? And it was like, bro, I thought it was 50-50, and then I have to handle some things.
Is that because they're in like a label deal, or is and then the label is taking 80 and then you're splitting the rest?
There you go. Yeah, so without even like speaking specifically to what it was, basically like I had a situation where I was under the assumption that it was 50-50, but what ended up happening was it was 25-25 and then 50% to the label.
Yeah.
And I had to call like, hold on, bro. Like, and even with that situation, to be fair, sometimes, you know, the artist is so much bigger than you as a producer. You kind of, you know, you got to find a silver lining in that. So by the time that was finished, I think I ended up negotiating it to about 40%. You know what I mean? So it ended up being like a 40-60 term, which I was perfectly fine with, because if I just put it out and said, hey, this is Kino Beats tape and Kino is rapping, it wouldn't do as good as having that higher power artist on the, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so the label wound up reducing their share significantly then to
accommodate
the producer. Okay,
right.
Interesting.
And that just came with just the conversation, negotiations, and bro, we don't got no paperwork on this, so like, you can't really say anything. So I'm not suggesting go without the paperwork, but all this fairy tale stuff of when you're in the studio, you need to tell them what the business is. Man, that shit'll get you kicked out the studio, bro. Like, don't come in here talking about what the splits is gonna be like. And I've seen it with my own eyes. Like, I've seen producers, like, before the song gets to recording, they'll say certain things to the rapper, and the rapper be like, oh yeah, all right, bet, I'm about to go use the bathroom real quick. And then you look on the camera and you just see the car pull off. Like, I swear to God, I've seen it. I've seen it, bro.
Yeah,
I've seen it, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you.
What do you think what is the best way to approach that, do you think, then? Like, just wait until the song is really about to come out? Like, unless you really do have a good relationship with them?
Yeah, if you have a good relationship, you could start having the conversation. But if it's a newer relationship, I mean, that's why every producer should have a good quality lawyer, you know what I mean, to be able to fight those battles for you on the back end. Yeah. But if there is a relationship already, then you can have that conversation ahead of time. But if there isn't a relationship, it's like, that's hip hop. You know what I mean? Other genres work like that. And I've started to see a change, which I love to see the change. Like, I've started to go to like certain like camps and stuff and see they had like sign-in sheets and split sheets and all these things there, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's good to see. You guys have that ahead of time. Like, that's pretty neat. But
like, the organization that hosted it is trying to encourage the people there to do it.
There you go.
Okay, that's dope.
You go.
Okay, yeah, like kind of a requirement.
Like, the last thing was like B.O.B., the artist B.O.B., when he had a camp, and I remember as soon as we walked into camp, somebody from his team was like, hey, this is a sign-in sheet, but on this sheet, we want you to write your ASCAP or your BMI information, and write this is for the split sheets for whatever you're going to be doing, and da-da-da-da-da. Like, they handled the splits right then and there. So I was like, that's fire. I appreciated that, because again, like, I've been in this game a long time, and I just know it's cutthroat, you know? So
yeah, for sure. What about when it comes to working with other producers? Because I'm working with a producer now, set up a call, and like, it's with a really big artist. The song's about to be huge. He has 5 cuts on the new project, and there's like he came in with the artist, and after the beats were made, he was like, nah, I didn't really fuck with this beat, remade like the entire beat, and he did that like 3 times, and now the producers are big, so now there's all these beefs with other producers. Now that's a different situation than usual, but how do you feel about talking about business with other producers, not really the artists?
Again, it's a relationship thing. I don't have a personal situation that I've been through with that, but an artist that I'm cool with, he tells me about a situation that happened where there's a super big, well-known producer, and a newer guy came in and worked with him and kind of started barking commands while he was, working on the computer, and they basically just stripped everything that he did off of it. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think it works the same way it works with the artist. Like, if you don't have a relationship, bro, shut up. You know what I mean? And just appreciate the system, because, what's for you is for you. You're going to get it in the end. You know what I mean? So, like, I think it kind of works the same way. To that situation though, that's just fucked. Like, I don't like.
Yeah, it's a really tough thing to navigate, because it's like you took out the person's melody, right? And now their melody, their contribution is not in it anymore. Yeah. However, you still like that original. You basically made a derivative work. Just because that work wasn't released doesn't mean that you didn't. So they would still be entitled to publishing on the new record, because you took a record. So it's like, it's a very difficult thing to navigate, like, business wise, and they actually got me involved when they usually deal with it on their own, because like just having that conversation as the producer and their manager with people they do business with, like it brought in like the legal side to be able to have it
because
them,
like, then I would have to ask you, like, how does that turn out? Because I mean, me personally, I would think it's all on the bigger producer to keep it real. You know what I mean? But I don't know if legally, technically, I feel like it's covered. But if you don't have no proof, then like,
yeah, I mean, there's no real answer. Like, if you all contributed to it, even if it's not equally, if you don't agree to a split, then it's equal. Like,
right, yeah, technically.
But I mean, like,
right.
That's not how it's going to play out. Like, you're going to have to come to some type of agreement, really. So you all own it equally, you know what I mean? So it's like, you still got to get it resolved. So, I mean, it's a tough thing to navigate for sure.
That's a doozy.
Yeah. So, I want to go back to the conversation of networking real quick before we wrap up. So you talked about the importance of going out to networking with people that don't wear chains. Like, you said something like that, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
Out to like South by Southwest, even going on LinkedIn. So is that something that you still do, or that you encourage producers to do?
Yeah, for sure. Because that don't wear chains. That's funny. To even explain that, like, the guys that don't wear chains or whatever, because you have the rapper, you might have the producer, all these people that have all the fancy jewelry and all that stuff on, but you might have the most important person in the world in the room that's just clean and just handling his business. Is like, really network with everybody in the camp that you're trying to, like, you got to like set a focus, like, okay, I want to work with this camp. Okay, Young Nudie, there goes Young Nudie. I see Young Nudie, I see this person, I see this guy, he has on the same whatever clothing, I think it was PRE, not PRE, but PDE. You got all of them got the PDE hoodies on and shirts and stuff. Okay, let me just talk with anybody in the camp, because you don't know who's who or who could really make a play for you. Like, it could be just his friend that just hang out with him. It could be his barber. It could be whoever that'd be like, hey, bro, hey, I make beats, da-da-da-da. And he might tell you like, all right, well, I'm not the one to talk to, but you see that guy in a red shirt? That's who you need to talk to. Word. So it's just, talking to anybody in the camp, because, sometimes you might talk directly to the artist and they might swerve you a bit or whatever the case may be. So just feel comfortable enough to speak to anybody in the camps or whatever you're trying to do,
Yeah, you're such a social dude, and it comes so naturally for you. Do you even think intentionally about, like, I'm going here to network? Or do you, like, I tried going to events and I really did believe it for a while until I started analyzing myself. I'm not going to network. I'm just going to have fun. And usually when I approach it like that, I do wind up meeting the better people, because I'm just a better energy to be around. But at the same time, I do catch myself when I meet somebody, it's like, fuck, like, I'm only here for 3 hours and there's other big people in this room. So I go through this little battle in my head sometimes. Like, if I want to maximize it, like, what goes on in your head? Are you pretty intentional about, like, let me maximize my time here, or just like have fun?
I used to be. I was just joking with my homie about that before. It's like, I lost a lot of that energy. I'm not gonna lie. Like I used to have that energy. Like when I was a lot younger, like I'll be like, okay, we're going here and we need to do this. We need to be here and do this. Nowadays, I'm more on the like, if it comes naturally, it happens. If it don't, it doesn't. But whatever. But what I will say is, from doing it so much that it happens. It comes so natural to me to the point where I went to a show the other day with some of my homies. And when I went to the show, I'm just literally casually sitting there at the show and I'm just scanning the room and I just happen to see like, oh, that's the backstage entrance right there. That's where the artists go right there. So I'm like, hey bro, let's stand on this side of the stage. Like, it's like I'm not there to network, but I'm just like, yeah, let's just stand on this side of the stage. And it's from standing there, it was like a bunch of people kind of came in, and I just turned, yo bro, da 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 da, and then just talk to people, and then I know some people and stuff like that, and just communicate. Next thing you know, I end up backstage at the show. You know what I mean? So, but it was like, I swear that wasn't the intent. Like I just went to just hang out. It was like a free show with a bunch of people and stuff. So it's like, it's kind of like, it just happens so natural now, you know?
Yeah, you've gotten so many reps in, like, because
exactly.
Yeah, I like to say, I tell myself I'm going to this event to not necessarily tell myself, but like I go to stuff and I know that I'm going to be around like-minded people that are interested in the same type of stuff as me. We are really driven by very similar things, so I have a good time with them naturally, and that winds up bringing out a good side of me, So I think that's an interesting perspective on it,
because
sure.
naturally, like me personally, I never was like I wasn't like the fan of like going to concerts and stuff anyway. So I'm not getting in the mosh pit anyway. You know what I mean? I never was getting in the mosh pit. Never was. So I'm already gonna be sitting on the outskirts, just enjoying the show anyway. Yeah. So it's like, all right, well, instead of standing here from getting them reps in, I know maybe I need to stand here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
for
then
sure.
Whatever happens, and it'll be, what it is.
Fire. Well, this was a dope episode, bro. Thank you so much for coming on.
Man, I appreciate you, bro, for sure.
Definitely, bro. Well, appreciate y'all, and catch you in the next episode.
Yes, sir.